Hey guys, so I've had a lot of questions. How did your weight loss journey begin? And while I've been on my journey for a while, for those of you who have followed me for a while, know that it's been a long journey. And so I figured I should start from day one and catch everybody up to how I got to where I am now. So we're going to start from the beginning and just kind of work our way through to how I began my weight loss journey. So I first gained 100 pounds when I was pregnant. Now, mind you, I was never one of those like really skinny people growing up. I always struggled with weight my entire life. I was definitely like a fat kid, bigger than my teacher, and my parents weren't big. So it was one of those issues where my parents didn't really know how to handle me when I was asking for more portions and asking for more food. They were just like, sure, here you go. So there's a lot of background, I think, starting as an overweight child, starting with that baggage growing up. So I always was concerned about the way that I looked. And I would try a lot of diets on my own, like Starving Yourself or reading popular teen magazines, like 17, and like reading what the latest trend was. But nothing really clicked for me. I would try and starve myself for a few days, and it was never long term. Nothing really worked for me. And then when I was 18, I became a vegetarian, and that was probably like one of the healthier diets I ever tried. And then I became a vegan, which is even stricter, and that was probably the skinniest I was in my life. But I was a poor college student, and within no time became malnutrition, so that diet didn't work either. If you don't eat the right foods, you're basically starving yourself. And guess what, guys? Starvation works. It is a great diet, but it is not long-term, it's not healthy. So whenever you see diets out there and you're like, how'd they do it? And it's like, just starve yourself for 30 days. It's like, there are consequences to your choices. But that's like a whole nother spiel. So basically, I always struggled a little bit, always had an extra 30 pounds. I would like lose it, gain it, and lose it. I was never on the super, super skinny side. I averaged anywhere between like 150 at my skinniest ever when I was a vegan, and then about 200. So I would always stay within those 50 pounds of moving up and down as an adult. And then when I got married, I was 200 pounds. And I got pregnant 6 months after I got married. So as soon as I got pregnant, I had that 24-hour sickness, where I was pregnant and didn't tell anybody yet because it was still in the early days, and you just felt sick the whole day. So nausea was a big problem for me. And when I would eat, it would kind of make the nausea like go away. So that began a slow but steady weight gain in my pregnancy. I gained 100 pounds with my pregnancy. And that's pretty much unheard of. I never knew anybody that gained 100 pounds with their pregnancy. And so I felt like it was very easy to gain that weight. I thought that it would be very easy to lose that weight. I never thought, really, I didn't think it would be a struggle. Every person that I knew after they had that baby and they looked great again. Like that was gonna be me, right? So I really didn't worry about losing the weight. And so then I had my son, and he was like a 10-pound baby, and he was the biggest baby in the nursery, and I still looked like I was 9 months pregnant. And I was just so sad. I'm like, what happened? I was like, I thought I was gonna lose this 100 pounds that I just gained and go back to normal. And that was kind of like the first realization that just because you wanted something to happen doesn't mean it was gonna happen. Like I wanted to lose this weight, but I didn't know really even how I gained it, let alone how am I gonna lose it. So that was the beginning of realizing, hey, now I'm 300 pounds, I have a newborn baby, and I already feel overwhelmed having a newborn baby. I can't focus on how to lose this weight. I mean, I have not been able to figure it out thus far. Why am I all of a sudden going to figure it out as a new mom? So that just felt like it was one more burden on my shoulders, one more thing to get upset about and stressed about. So I didn't stress that much about it. Then about 6 months into having my son, I started realizing that I'm staying at home way too much. I definitely had signs of postpartum depression, but because I was educated and felt too prideful, I definitely didn't want to talk about it. I would go weeks without answering my phone, but I never really saw it as a problem. I thought it was normal to be drowning. I thought that was a normal way of being a new mom. And so I didn't reach out for help when I should have. So it took me a while. I definitely I wasn't even on Facebook yet, so social media, this was back in 2008 is when Junior was born, so 2009 is probably when I started to look for ways to lose weight, you know, and I wasn't even on social media yet. I think I just started Facebook in 2009, and I came across this group called Stroller Strides, and it was basically a way to get social back into your life as a mom, which is huge, and to get exercise. I was like, yes and yes, let's do this. So it seems silly when you tell people, they're like, what is Stroller Strides? I'm like, it's just a group of moms, and we got together at a park. And people would say, you'd pay another mom to show up at a park and walk around? The answer was yeah, because that group of moms was integral to starting my weight loss journey, because it got me out of the house. I had a common goal with other people. We're going to show up, and for 1 hour, we're going to walk 1 mile, and we're going to do a little bit of resistance training with some bands, and then we're going to let our kids play at the park. So it was a win, win, win. And Stroller Strides is where it all began. And I remember when I first started Stroller Strides, it was hard. It was really hard. It took me about 45 minutes, and we'd walk 1 mile. That's it, just 1 mile around the neighborhood. So it wasn't very far, but I felt like, I felt like I was doing a lot when I started. And I didn't realize, but my habits were one of the things that would have to be changed in order to really start this weight loss journey. But one of the things I always did on the way to Stroller Strides was stop at Chick-fil-A and get breakfast for Junior and I would get the bagel with fried chicken and an egg and eat that whole thing. And I'd get 2 orders of chicken minis, one for me and one for Junior. So like unbeknownst to myself, I was eating close to 1,000 calories just for breakfast. But I thought, hey, I'm going to like walk a mile. I can eat that kind of food, right? So I wasn't yet putting 2 and 2 together. Like I knew that food would be an issue, but I wasn't focusing on that. I was focusing on, let's start moving my body. Since I hate exercise, what can I do to start slowly sneaking exercise in there? And I think that's the key, you guys. That's the key to starting a weight loss journey, is to just start moving. Because if you try and do too many things at once, if you're like, I'm gonna eat good and I'm gonna join a gym, I'm gonna work out 5 days, I'm gonna only eat vegetables, you start putting too much on yourself and you feel overwhelmed, and you go back to that drowning feeling, and then you're like, I'm drowning, I'm always drowning. And that's the key for me, is to not take away, but to slowly add. So I would just slowly add movement into my life by doing Stroller Strides. I wasn't yet changing what I was eating, and I wasn't doing anything besides Stroller Strides. I definitely wasn't going to the gym or anything like that, okay? So about a few months into Stroller Strides, the leader says that she's gonna sign us up for a 5K. And I was like, oh, no way, Jose, I can't run a 5K, that's a no. And she said, no, I'm signing everybody up, we're gonna do it as a team, and Kendra, you can do it. And I was just like, wow, she believes in me like more than I believe in myself. Like I'm telling her I'm not going to be able to finish this race, and she's telling me I am. So being around people who believe in you more than you're able to believe in yourself at that moment is another key to starting your weight loss journey. You want to be around people who see potential in you when you don't, because those are the people that pull the magic out of you. So being in the right place, being around the right people is definitely key. If you feel like you're being pushed away from your goals and your journey when you're around certain people, like pay attention to that energy. So the girl who ran the Stroller Strides group was amazing. She got us all signed up, and so I go to do my first 5K, and you have like an hour to walk a 5K, and then after that they kind of just like stop keeping track. And we did it under the hour, the whole group with our little strollers out there, and I was so freaking proud of myself. So I did my first 5K in April of 2009. And you'll see if you follow me on Instagram, I post those pictures all the time. And I remember thinking, there's no way I'm gonna do this. And then I remember at the end of the race going, oh, I just finished a 5K. So that was the beginning of me feeling really strong, because I was able to do something that I didn't think I would do. Like I would have never signed myself up for a 5K, but because somebody pushed me, somebody else saw potential in me, I took a chance on myself. So when I saw the results, I liked that feeling of feeling proud of myself. So I wanted to keep doing that more. So I started signing up for 5Ks like it was my job, and I would just walk them, and I would usually push the stroller when I was doing it. So I wasn't pursuing this journey alone. You know, me and Junior were on it, and then Jason would come with us at certain times. He did the first 5K with me. And so it started to be something that we kind of did as a family to just move. But it wasn't enough. Like I think I maybe lost a few pounds, but it wasn't noticeable. It wasn't like I was seeing really amazing results, but I did feel stronger. Like I was able to walk longer each time. So that's when I started like paying attention to, maybe I need to start hitting the gym outside of stroller strides. Maybe I need to start paying attention to what I eat. And so I went and saw a nutritionist that my OB had recommended. And it was a nutritionist for people who had diabetes. And she basically told me, she just read it from the book, eat these foods, don't eat those foods. She wasn't very helpful. Like she told me guacamole was bad for me. And she didn't really give me much. I didn't really care for it. And then my OB recommended a holistic nutritionist. And then I went and saw her. And she was the first one to tell me about inflammatory foods. She was like, cut the gluten out, cut the dairy out. There's certain types of foods that might mess with the way that you feel, and the way that you feel will affect about you wanting to work out. And so she was kind of putting all the pieces together per se, but it was the first time I ever heard it. So it did seem kind of like, ooh, out there, and it was overwhelming. Like, how do you take all that in? Like, it just seemed like too much. Like you'd go to your pantry and everything that she said don't eat was in your pantry. So you're like, what do I eat? I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I came home and like threw away everything in my pantry because some diet said don't eat it. And then what do? Like a week later, you're back at the store buying all that stuff you just threw out. So I wasn't about to clean out my pantry again because I've been there, done that, didn't want to do it. And so then that's when I started to just slowly add certain things. She said, try this dressing over that dressing, or try this over that. And that's where I would start to look at stuff. But really started to hit home for me is when Junior started eating solid foods. So around the same time, 6 months when I started working out, it's when the baby starts eating real food. And then you're looking at all the stuff that you eat and you're like, I wouldn't feed this food to Junior. So then I started thinking, hey, let's look at healthier food options for Junior and healthier food options for me. Well, right around the same time, my husband's family started talking about moving. And so I didn't think it would ever apply to me, but it was like, next thing I know, they're all wanting to move to Tennessee. And so that means basically taking everything that I had started in Texas as far as having a good group of friends to work out with, having 5Ks to sign up for, having all my all my ducks in a row per se. And they were like, we're going to move to the middle of nowhere. And so my thinking is great, I had probably lost about maybe 20 pounds at this point, sitting around maybe 275-ish. And just kind of feeling like, well, I guess we don't have a choice, right? People move for work all the time. So I tried to be as positive as it was, but coming here and moving to Tennessee was very hard because I didn't have any family, didn't have a support system. So we lived in a hotel for the first month of moving here. So it was very much of like starting over, going back to bad eating habits, having to find a place to work out. And so I was lucky enough, I found the YMCA. And the YMCA had childcare. So for me, it enabled me to get 2 hours in my day where I could have somebody help me with Junior because I didn't have family, and I could focus on myself. And so that was the beginning of like realizing that as a mom, when you take time for yourself, you then feel so much better and you can like help others better. You feel more present when you are around other people because you took that time for yourself. And that's what I didn't realize is I was feeling too guilty about taking time for myself as a mom. Every decision you make as a mom became based upon fear and guilt. So I felt like, oh, I can't work out. I can't take that time to myself. But when I started to make time for myself, I started to feel better. And I liked the way that I felt. So I really wanted to duplicate that. And so I saw this half marathon at the YMCA and it was like, let's sign up for a half marathon. And all you had to do was walk it. You didn't have to run it. So I thought I could do this. And I signed up for my very first half marathon. I think it was September of 2000. I don't even really know. So I want to say 2011 maybe was my first half marathon. And I did it in about 3 hours. And I felt so good about myself. I was hooked. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. So I did about 6 half marathons, and my best time I think was like just right at 2 hours and 15 minutes or so. And what I learned from that is I thought if I sign up for half marathon, I'm going to lose weight. It's gonna happen. And I did probably 4 or 5 half marathons and was stuck at like 220 pounds. After years, I'd spend hours in the gym and I just couldn't figure it out. And we had a trainer at the gym, and one of my friends is like, hey, you wanna go in halfsies and get this trainer? And I'm like, sure, why not? Because I kind of thought, I've done a few half marathons, I can handle this trainer. And so those of you who are from the Cookeville area know the trainer was Chris King. And so he was known as a bodybuilder and like hardcore diets. He would teach the boot camp. So I was a little scared to go and work out with this guy. And immediately he said to me, when I was telling him how long I've been at the gym and how many hours of cardio, the first thing he said is stop doing that much cardio. He's like, you don't need to do that much cardio. And he was obviously right, because it wasn't working. I mean, I had lost about 60 to 70 pounds over 3 years of pretty much just walking and doing excessive amounts of cardio. But this is one of those where you feel like you keep doing something and it's not working. And that's when he said, what you're missing, Kendra, is the diet part. You have to do both at the same time. And I'm like, but that's hard. And he's like, no kidding. He said, I want you to try this diet, and for 2 weeks, if you can do it, come back to me. Well, if anybody's ever tried the Chris King diet, I think I went 3 days before I was like, I need food. And so I did it for 3 days, went back to him, and I said, Chris, I couldn't make it. And he said, that's okay, a lot of people can't. And he said, it's supposed to be hard. Like, he didn't have any empathy for me whatsoever. He's like, if you want change, then you have to put in the hard work. So I was hesitant about trying him as an actual trainer, because I already knew how tough he was with this diet. So now fast forward, I'm paying for him. He's telling me to eat this diet and I'm going to do good. And so within 6 months of working out with Chris King, like 3 times a week, very strict on the diet, I lost another 60 to 70 pounds. So total, it took me 4 years to lose 140 pounds. And so half of that weight loss was on my own and through trial and error and over 3 years. And then the other half of that weight loss was with a trainer and a very structured diet over another 6-month period. So what I would say to people is educate yourself. Like, look at all the availability we have now with YouTube videos, with Instagram stories. We can just Google, give me a good workout for the shoulders, and it's there. We just have to decide on what we're gonna do to move our bodies. Now, why I decided to finally make this video is because I've had a lot of people wanna know, what do I need to do to get started? Because when you look at these people on YouTube, they already seem to have it all. And you're like, but I'm not them. And that's it. You're not them. And so you have to just decide you're going to start moving. And what works for you? Is it walking? Is it swimming? Is it on a bike? Is it on a rower? I mean, everybody's different. And the one thing I've learned throughout my weight loss journey is like, everybody has a different opinion. There are so many different trainers. There's so many different diets. And the reason why everybody has a different opinion is because everybody is different. So no 2 things work for the same people. Like, I could say this worked great for me, and then for my friend, it didn't work for her. And that happens all the time, you guys. And so what you have to be willing to do is to just keep trying new things. I think what happens a lot of time is we see somebody who's super successful, we try to mimic their success in the way that they did it, and it didn't work for us. So then we feel like a failure and like, what am I not doing right? And what you're not doing right is honoring in who you are and listening to your body and just being real with yourself. Like, when you're going to pound those chips again, it's like, am I hungry or am I just trying to fill a void? And that's one of the things you really have to work on every day. And that's what's hard about weight loss. It's not just, I signed up for a gym, check. I got surgery, check. I got the magic pill, check. It just doesn't work like that. And we all wish that it would, but it doesn't. And the sooner that we realize it just takes time, that a weight loss journey will always be a journey, that there really is no end, and then the willingness to keep putting in that hard work, I think eventually we'll all find a journey that works for us. So if I could give you guys one piece of advice, it would be to start moving your body. Doesn't matter what you do, put on some shoes, go outside and walk around the neighborhood. That counts as cardio. You don't have to have a gym membership. You don't have to have a fancy subscription to some online portal that tells you how to do it. All you have to do is just use your body in any way that feels good to you, okay? So first thing is move. Second thing is stretch. It is so overrated. Yoga, if you want to call it yoga, I just call it stretching. basically getting those muscles moving, getting that blood flowing. Even if you just sit on the floor and stretch for 30 minutes, you will feel better. I promise. There's scientific research behind serotonin being released in the brain when we stretch. So move the body, stretch the body. And then third, nourish your body. Start looking at the stuff that you put into your body, okay? Look at your body like a car. Treat your body better than your car. You would never go to your car and put water in it because water's cheaper, it's easier. I got water right here, but you would never do that because is the car gonna work? No, because the car needs gas. So you would never give the car what it doesn't need because you need to use the car. You need it to get you from point A to point B. Think of your body the same way. If you give your body the fuel that it needs, you're gonna feel better. You're gonna have more desire to move your body. You're gonna have more interest in eating better because you're giving your body what it needs. You give your body stuff that it doesn't need and it doesn't know how to process, then you're gonna feel like crap. So just try and pay attention to what you're eating. So read your labels, do your own research, move your body, and stretch, okay? 3 things that you don't need a trainer for, you don't need a gym membership for, and you don't need anybody else to do those 3 things. So I'm gonna try and post more videos for you guys because I feel like this weight loss journey thing is so important and it never ends, right? So sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down. And like right now, I kind of feel like I'm down. Like I've gained some weight, I'm back to struggling. I'm eating the Halo ice cream like I can't put it down. So we're gonna talk about this, you guys, and welcome to Kendra's channel. We're gonna go through a lot of things. We're going to make sure everybody has a place to feel like, hey, I can be myself and still be successful. So follow along, make sure you guys like this video, hit subscribe and share it with your friend because we're gonna begin the Kendra weight loss journey.